What is something that you do every single day that helps you stay alive? I'll give you a hint. You're probably doing it right now. No, I'm not talking about eating. I'm talking about breathing. Obviously, our breathing is super important because without it, we wouldn't be alive. But if you want to improve your overall health and your whole quality of life, there are ways to do that, and it all starts with breathing. Now, why do I think it's so important to talk about the way we breathe? Well, the truth is, most of us do not breathe correctly. And if we correct this, or if we simply improve the way that we breathe, it can really change our lives. If you want to be the best version of yourself, if you want to be the healthiest version of yourself, and if you want to just stop being tired all the time, it all starts with breathing. So today I'm going to go over 5 simple ways to improve your breathing. Number 1 is to stop breathing through your mouth. The only time our mouths should be open is when we're talking with people, when we're smiling, when we're laughing, or when we're putting food in our mouth. Not when we're actually chewing, because that's when our lips stay closed and we chew with our mouth closed. Now, this has nothing to do with having proper manners or common etiquette at a dinner table or anything like that, because I really suck at that stuff and I'm not the right person to listen to. But this is all part of a simple point that human beings were meant to breathe through their nose. Now look, if you're a mouth breather, it's not like it's gonna kill you or something like that. You're still gonna get oxygen, you're still gonna be able to survive, but we're not talking about just surviving. We're talking about being healthy and being the best version of yourself that you can be. Now, if you're a mouth breather, that is terrible for you. Again, it's not gonna kill you or anything like that, but it's definitely gonna lower your quality of life. When you breathe through your mouth as opposed to breathing through your nose, you're gonna absorb way less oxygen. And as a result, you're gonna be way less healthy than a nose breather. So this brings us to number 2, and the second way to improve your breathing is to breathe through your nose. Now, what's the big deal here? What's the big deal if you breathe through your nose versus breathing through your mouth, and how much of a difference can it really make? Well, the answer is a huge one. It can actually change your whole life. Actually, if you start with breathing through your nose as a kid, it can change the way your whole face and jaw is developed. And the reason is when we breathe through our nose, our tongue is naturally resting against the roof of our mouth. And when you're a kid, your bones, your jaw, your facial structure, it's all still developing. So that means this is the perfect time to act. And you might be wondering, hey, what the heck are you talking about? Well, let's just talk about your face and your upper jaw in general. When you're a kid, your upper jaw is able to move and widen a lot more. And the reason is as you get older, your bones start to get more mineralized, meaning they get harder and harder. And when you're a kid, in the roof of your mouth, you have a suture down the middle of it. And this suture is basically still open, meaning you can still widen that bone, and whatever's widened, there'll be bone that fills in the middle. But when you get older, that bone in the middle is starting to get harder, and there's no real suture anymore, meaning you can't widen your jaw as easily without doing a surgery. So this is why you see a lot of people around the age of 8 going to an orthodontist and getting these big expanders in to widen their jaw. Now this brings us back to our point before of breathing through your nose. Like I said before, when you breathe through your nose, your tongue is resting against the roof of your mouth. And when your tongue is resting against the roof of your mouth, it stimulates those stem cells in the roof of your mouth to expand. So now if this is done at an early age, instead of going to an orthodontist and having to get an expander, or even worse, never going to an orthodontist and never breathing through your nose and always having a narrow constricted mouth, now if you've been breathing through your nose at an early age, you are much more likely to have a wider jaw and more room for all your teeth to come in place. That means you're much less likely to need work done by an orthodontist. And this can improve your aesthetics as a whole, because people who breathe through their mouth are much more likely to have a longer, narrower face as opposed to someone who's a nose breather. Now that's just one benefit of breathing through your nose. You also filter out your air much better when you breathe through your nose as opposed to your mouth. When you breathe through your nose, you filter out about 98 to 99% of viruses and bacteria. You really don't filter out anything when you breathe through your mouth. All those bacteria and viruses are going straight into your lungs. And that means you're much more likely to get sick when you're a mouth breather versus a nose breather. And it doesn't end there. You absorb oxygen way better when you breathe through your nose as opposed to your mouth. And this actually brings us to number 3, which is to slow your breathing down. That means you're breathing much less frequently than breathing through your mouth, because when you breathe through your mouth, you're taking these really rapid, fast, short breaths. And you may think that by breathing through our mouth and getting more frequent breaths, we're able to get more oxygen into our body. Well, that's actually not the case. When you breathe through your mouth and you take these really frequent, fast breaths, you're not giving any time for that oxygen to spend in your body. Now compare this to when you breathe through your nose. You're taking really, really slow breaths, and that oxygen is staying in your body. And not only that, you're also exhaling a lot slower as well when you breathe through your nose. When you breathe out through your nose, there's no way that air can get out as fast as when you breathe through your mouth. And the reason is simple. Those 2 nose holes of yours are a lot smaller than that mouth. Don't believe me? Go look in the mirror. This creates kind of a bottleneck. So you have all this air that's trapped in your lungs and is trying to get out of your nose, but it's forced to stay in your lungs. Now, instead of getting out really quickly, this air is able to get absorbed and is able to get transported to all the cells in your body. Now, we talked a lot about oxygen and stuff, but what about carbon dioxide? You know how they say when you're breathing in oxygen, but when you breathe out, you're actually exhaling carbon dioxide. Well, carbon dioxide is really important too, and it's really important that this carbon dioxide has enough time to work in our body as well. Carbon dioxide or CO2 isn't just a waste that we're trying to get rid of really quickly. It has a lot of functions. Carbon dioxide helps us absorb the oxygen that's already in our body. It helps us have just a good breathing pattern in general. It helps regulate the pH of our blood, and it can avoid having muscle spasms. So if you're ever working out in the gym and you have this random muscle spasm that starts bothering you, that probably means that you're breathing through your mouth because you're breathing way too quickly. And again, it all has to do with how fast you're breathing. The faster and more frequent breaths you're taking, the less oxygen the rest of your body's getting. But the slower and less frequent breaths you're taking, the more oxygen the rest of your body's getting. So your breathing should really be like a pendulum, but a slow pendulum. That pendulum should be going back and forth really slowly, and that's basically how you should be breathing through your nose. The fourth way to improve your breathing is to use your belly. You know when you're taking pictures with all your friends and a common thing to do is to suck in your gut because you probably haven't been working out that well for the last few weeks, and if you have, you still have a gut. Well, that is not the case when you're just chilling, hanging out, breathing like a normal person. When you are just breathing, just sitting there, I want that gut to be sticking out. And the reason has to do with your diaphragm. When you're breathing in and you're expanding your gut, that means that your diaphragm is moving, and that means that you're using all of your lungs' capacity. But when you're breathing in and only the upper half of your chest is moving, that means you're really not using all of your lungs' capacity. And this actually brings us to number 5, which is to improve your lung capacity. Now, the goal with improving your lungs' capacity is to basically make sure your lungs are functioning as efficiently as possible. A good way to do this is to basically think about the air that we breathe just like our money. When you put your money in something, whether you're investing something or buying a new laptop, you want to make sure you get the best bang for your buck and that that money is being spent as efficiently as possible. You don't want to be wasting your hard-earned money, right? Well, it's the same thing with breathing. Every breath we take is important, and every breath we take should be used as efficiently as possible. And this is really important as you get older, because starting at the age around 35, your lungs start to get smaller, your diaphragm starts to get weaker, and basically your lungs won't be able to hold as much air as when you were younger. Or in other words, our lung capacity starts to go down. Now, this is all part of that aging process, and why as we get older, we're more likely to have health problems because we're just not getting as much oxygen. So how can we prevent this and have a good lung capacity? Well, other than all the stuff I said before, 2 big things are having a good posture and just exercising. When you're exercising, obviously it's good for your whole body, but it's also kind of training your lungs and making you have a better lung capacity. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked that video, and if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below, and I'll see you in the next video.